Ladies, Gentlemen, meine Damen und Herren, herzlich willkommen zur neuen Folge von Natürliche Ausrede, dem Podcast, in dem ich mich immer mit spannenden Menschen treffe, die was zu erzählen haben. Bevor es jetzt losgeht, will ich mich kurz bedanken. Mike von Dead or Alive Coffee hat mir was geschickt. In Folge 23 haben wir ja darüber gesprochen, wie er auf die Idee gekommen ist, diese Marke zu gründen und warum die Bohnen so verdammt stark sind. Ich habe jetzt hier vor mir 2 von diesen ziemlich cool gestalteten Packungen mit einem Warnhinweis, der liest sich wie folgt. Caution, Dead or Alive coffee won't kill you instantly, but your heart will probably race like crazy. So go see your doctor before consumption if you suffer from weak heart or high blood pressure. Das ist nochmal eine Ansage auf einem Kaffee, beziehungsweise Espresso. Und der Espresso, der ist richtig gut. Schmeckt eher so schokoladig mild, aber macht schon richtig die Lichter an. Ist guter Stoff. Aber jetzt zu meinem heutigen Gast. Geboren in Polen, emigriert nach Hamburg, dann Kalifornien, dann Portland und jetzt Berlin. Die Cellistin, Sängerin und Performerin Ashia war und ist viel unterwegs. Sie war Teil der American Songbirds, war letztes Jahr mit Ensemble für das Humboldt Theaterstück auf Europa Tour, kreiert faszinierende Songs als Ashia the Bison Rouge, war gerade noch zur Stimmabgabe in ihrem Geburtsland, spricht 3 Sprachen, wir haben uns heute fürs Englische entschieden, und hat mit Orchestraltools eine Samplelibrary zusammengestellt. Über all das und noch viel mehr sprechen wir heute und damit we can do something like a snap on the count of 1, 2, 3, 4 and then snap if you want to.
We can do
okay,
that.
let's do this.
Let's make it easy.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay. Great. Then maybe we got it. So, Ashia, how the hell are you? We haven't talked in like forever.
It's true. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. And what you wrote me the other day, it's been kind of busy weeks for you.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of traveling.
There was traveling, and then there was a release of a video.
Yeah.
Of actually a release of instruments of VSTI creative instruments, and
okay.
So of a composition, or actually half the composition,
Okay.
because the other half will be released later. And so it was really cool. It was with the company Orchestraltools. And so we released, or not we, but they released 3 various instruments, 3 different sound packs to play with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are these samples or sample players?
They're samples. Well, there's a sample player. I guess that's what it's called. So they use Cinna to run their samples as a plugin, as a VSTI plugin. Mm-hmm. It's called Cinna. And this is, you can just download it, it's for free. And then they have the sound packs that they create. It's a bit like Native Instruments, like in this kind of, as an example. But what they specifically do is they specifically record orchestral instruments.
Okay.
It's more of what they do. And so what's very amazing about them is that instead of just recording each instrument individually, which they also do, they'll record entire sections. So they're
like an entire string section.
The entire string section, the entire brass or woodwind section.
Okay.
And what the sound pack that I did was actually quite different. It was creative. So they had one called Arbos, and it's forest sounds, sounds from the forest. So they actually went and found trees, and you could actually see it. They have a making of on the website or on YouTube as they show how they're recording, hitting trunks and hitting roots and hitting sticks and shaking branches. And that was the first sound pack I actually got to play with. Like, that was the first one that was pretty much finished. So I was able to start playing around with it and composing with it. And so
you used this trees sample pack to record and be creative with it?
Yeah. So my assignment as as an artist to work with them, so I did an artistic collaboration with them, is that I was to receive 3 of these sound packs and to compose with them.
Okay. Yeah, so so there's a song made of trees.
Yeah. There's a song with tree sounds in it. Yep. It's pretty amazing.
Okay. Please tell me it's a cover song of The Cure's "The Forest."
Yeah. No, we couldn't. And unfortunately, we couldn't do any sort of covers. I had to create my own.
Okay, and afterwards you had you worked with them to provide some samples for the cello and/or orchestra set, correct?
No, in the end, no. I was just the artist, so I recorded some cello on the track I was working on, but
Okay.
it had nothing to do with it. There was another pack which is called Amber, and that's actually a string quartet tuned down a fourth.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tuned down a fourth, and so instead of the A being 440 or 441 or 442 nowadays,
Yeah.
it was tuned down a fourth. So what would that be? I mean, it's a bit more like Baroque tuning.
Okay.
So
Okay. Is this a Berlin company? A Berlin-based company?
they also have an office in Berlin, and that's where their main office is. But they have an office also in, I think, near Freiburg. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that.
No.
I think so. And so they have a main office here in Berlin where they are here to record, and so they record usually in these larger orchestral recording spaces here in Berlin, which is pretty amazing. So from what I know, with what I've seen online, is when they record with Berlin musicians, and yeah, and they have quite some incredible sound packs that are specifically meant for movie scoring. And so they'll have sound packs kind of engineered around creating certain sounds, or if you want something that sounds like a thriller, then they have something for that, where it's pretty epic sounding. And so they'll have pianissimos and really, really big sounds, or they have something called junkie brass, which is like the biggest brass section you could ever wish for. And I even was like tempting to work with it. Just because I have all these, like brass player friends growing up in orchestra. During the days I played in orchestra, and then just to send them something that sounds like a really ridiculous, overpumped Mahler symphony would be pretty hilarious. Be like, look what I've been working on. I'm no longer the soft cellist. So it's pretty cool.
But you took playing the cello to some sorts of other levels anyway, didn't you?
Do you mean instead of just playing classically?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So definitely with effects, so just changing the sound, sampling the sound differently, which is pretty fun. And then just, doing stuff like delays and octave and yeah.
You still play around with the looper?
Yeah, actually, I got another new one, and it's like a dream of mine right now to really dive into it. But now it's summer, and it's getting busy now. We're traveling, and then I was in this accident, so I had to wait till my neck got better.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, but let's get to this in a second.
Yeah.
Tell me about the looper, please.
So the looper is it's the RC505 from Roland. And it's originally meant for playing with the hands, but since I play anyways barefoot, so I tried it out barefoot a few times when I first got it. Actually, before Corona really kicked in, and I was like, "Hey, I can totally manage this with my feet, as long as I don't wear shoes."
Yeah. Okay.
And it's very soft. So now, what's incredible about it is there's a lot of pre-programming that can help, and as well as just room for improvisation as well. So for example, if I have a piece, like a specific piece that I want to work on, and I've been working on it, then there's a lot of possibilities and also built-in effects to kind of help me kind of bring it up a level instead of being absolutely 100% a bit more analog. For instance, what I'm talking about is I have a delay pedal that I really like a lot because of its various parameter controls and everything's like under my fingertips. But the problem with it is that if I set a tempo to a delay, I will never have the exact same tempo at performances. And so sometimes I've had the case where I've been practicing and I'm always like messing with the knobs during performance from one piece to another. But it's super annoying when you like have this perfect tempo you want for a piece and then you try to set the dial exactly where it always should be, but then it ends up being too slow. And then you're like waiting for that delay. And while you're performing, you don't want to be setting your delay in front of an audience. So you have to just commit and stick to it and be annoyed.
Yeah.
So, and then looping with it was even like more of a nightmare because it's like, oh, it's so slow. And now I have to find the one. And it was just starting to, you're like just practicing and then you get out there and it's different. It's kind of like, having a drunk bassist that you're trying to like make sure he's there. It's like, I might as well just be in a band and get my bassist drunk. I mean, it's nice felt this way.
Okay, yeah, shout out to all the drunk bass players out there.
No offense to bass players, of course.
Of course.
I take it back. I take it back.
Maybe they're familiar with being offended. If there's any class of musician for whatever reason, it's the bass player that always gets it the worst.
Yeah, they're the main support. So if they don't do their job, it's kind of Yeah.
Well, yeah. You said a second ago you've been in an accident, and you told me before that you had a car crash.
Yeah,
it
was a car crash, and so it only involved us, as far as I know. Like we didn't crash into another car. We drove off the side of the highway.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not good.
No, it's not good. But we were really lucky because the car basically saved us from being harmed, harmed more. And it's just, the car is gone. So now we have no car. So being me and my family. So my husband and my son, who's almost 4. He's 4 in about a month. And I was the one who actually kind of got the most damage. But it's not really damage because actually nothing was damaged in the end. It was just the shock from the whiplash. And I just took 2 weeks off from my cello and took 2 weeks off from working and just enjoyed life as much as I could, walking like a robot.
Okay. But when you say this, so you're all right now?
Yeah, I'm all right. It's still a bit sore, and of course, it's good to go. I'm still going to therapy, which I also go today, to osteopathy.
Yeah.
Osteopathy. It's easier to say it with a German accent. Osteopathy. Osteopathy. Therapy, and so I'll be going there today after our talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you said no work for 1 or 2 weeks, how's the situation up there in Berlin-Kreuzberg? Is work still going on, or is it because Berlin always seems to does kind of its own thing? How's the situation concerning the Corona thingy up there?
It seems pretty positive for now. The city's pretty alive. It has been since, because, in Germany, we never really got shut in the way it was in Spain or Italy. So people were allowed to go outside. And even at the beginning, it was pretty incredible because I live next to the canal, so it's an area of Berlin called the Dreiländerecke, and it's where Neukölln and Treptow and Kreuzberg all come together, but they come together at these canals, and our borders are these canal system.
Okay.
But since the beginning, people were taking walks there, and it was busy. So the street parallel to the canal front was empty. Like, you wouldn't know it. You think, okay, there's definitely a pandemic, but then you just go like 30 meters to the canal front, and Friday afternoons, people are in their dresses, in their, they've got their nice sunglasses on. You think,
really?
Yeah. And so there was this a bit Abstand halten, like people had
keeping distance.
Keeping distance, but in reality, it wasn't that easy. I mean, I tried to take a run, and I was really closely to brushing people on their shoulders because I had to try to get through,
Yeah, sure.
But it seemed to work. Like, somehow being outdoors in the springtime in the sunshine, it didn't spread so much.
Yeah, I heard that vitamin D is very important for the immune system when it comes to COVID and whatever viral infections. And of course, so when there's the sun, vitamin D is chemically provided within the body. So maybe it was a good weather for the pandemic.
Yeah, at least by the time it reached us, we were lucky it was springtime.
Yeah.
So definitely vitamin D. I think we'll be taking our vitamin D for sure over the winter time regardless.
Yeah, sure.
Just to stay healthy against everything else. I have to say, though, what's been pretty incredible, I mean, I was with my son, Luca. I was with him during this entire time. So I had to work in the evenings and on the weekends. But, and usually in the evenings I was actually too tired, but somehow I managed to do this release with Orchestraltools. I'm still like wondering like how we managed to do it, but we did it. It's like, what a strange 3 months. But what's pretty incredible is how we weren't getting sick because he wasn't going to a kita. And so he's not mixing it up with other kids and not bringing anything home. And I have to admit, I love not having a cold every 2 or 3 weeks and not, because when your immune system is working all the time, you're also a bit more tired. That also
Sure.
makes you more tired if you're trying to work and take care of a family and everything. So in the end, I wasn't so tired, and I wasn't sure there's a bit of this pandemic exhaustion, but in a sense, like, we weren't getting sick, and it was amazing. I have to admit, I really loved it, and I almost don't want him to go back because I'm like so over being sick.
Yeah. When kids meet with kids, they're like a breeding place for viruses, bacteria, whatever.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, they cough in others' mouths, and I don't know what
They pick each other's burgers. God, those. I don't know.
They're animals.
They're animals.
They're animals. They're little animals.
Little animals. They're amazing. Yeah.
But what you just said, I realize sometimes when I don't get sick regularly or at all, I must say, but I realize that sometimes, especially in the winter time, I get like tired for no reason. I mean, like, enough sleep and everything's cool, but I'm tired. I feel kind of weak. I feel not sickling, but just exhausted, but like for no reason. And usually this is because somehow my immune system is fighting off something, and this makes me, tired in the end. And I can only imagine that when having kids, these little animals, that bring home everything from the outside, it's a hard job.
Yeah, it is. And then on top of it is work and then touring, which also, I think it was last year where everything was running normally last spring, but I was actually working a lot and traveling a lot. I had been to Moscow and Omsk, and also in Germany I was playing concerts and doing gigs. And by by July, I was just over it. And I was literally like, I couldn't even, like, we were in Latvia and Riga for vacation. I was like, I don't want to go into the city because it means one day in the city and one day less in the country. And then anyways, we only have 3 or 4 days in the country and I really just need to rest. Yeah, so in the end, we just went to the ocean and it provided us with enough vitamin D and peace.
So all you wanted was like no people, no concrete. Just give me a couple of trees that I can probably make music with, and let me just lay here.
Yeah, let me just lay here in the sand. Let the ants crawl over me, whatever. I just
want to lay here and breathe.
I lay here and breathe, exactly.
When you say you were touring, you mean with your solo project?
Yeah, also some solo project concerts, but with a theater. So last year I performed with a small theater project, and I'd co-compose, and it was a Russian and German cooperation. Mm-hmm. And so we did part of the rehearsing in Germany and part of the rehearsing in Moscow, and it was about the life of Humboldt.
Humboldt.
Humboldt, it was the year of Humboldt last year, and so they wanted to create a new theater piece about his life, and it was really wonderful because the director wrote it. So she was always very driven. Monica Gosselman, she was always very driven, and she knew exactly how things were to be and how they were supposed to end up. There were projections. We needed some classical music from the time, so from the contemporary time then, so mid 1800s, and so we worked with the pianist Alexei Vaca to create a really nice program mixed with originals and with classical compositions, and it was really interesting because before the premiere, we even found that I Put a Spell on You worked in one scene.
The
Screaming Jay Hawkins, Nina Simone, I Put a Spell on You. Because I was working on a cover, and then one day in rehearsal, I had hooked everything up, and I was just sound checking, and I started singing I Put a Spell on You, and then the director's like, wait, because she was just thinking about this. In the exact same moment, she was thinking about a scene where Humboldt basically kind of, in a joking manner with one of his contemporaries, with one of his colleagues, he sells his soul to the devil. I think with Goethe, because, and in that moment, it's kind of like he kind of, he's this Wahnsinne Wissenschaftler, I don't know, like this crazy guy, and they're starting to joke a bit that he's Faust, and in this moment, he's like, okay, if I'm Faust, then I've sold my soul to the devil. And then in that very moment, we had just like tense, just really, because, in theater, you always just put like a tiny amount just to underscore, like underline a moment. And it was something we never thought about. And then in that very moment, I was singing it, and she was reading the scene, and she was like, we have to try this. And so we even put some of that piece in there.
And when you travel or go on tour with this theatrical project, you play the songs live.
Yeah, we play everything live. So it was also live looping, and there was nothing sequence. I mean, we did it. I was singing. I also sang some, like a piece of Russian. I had to learn how to sing in Russian. They asked in German, so I was singing in English, Russian, German for this piece. Yeah, it was cool.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
That is that is really something.
Yeah.
And singing it in English, German, and Russian.
Yeah, so for different pieces.
How long were the preparations for this?
Well, we had a few intensive weeks, but so we had an intensive week in one location just to kind of workshop it and put it together in Germany, where I was there only for a few days, I think, because it was really like most of it rested on the actors. So the actors were, I mean, it's an incredible amount of work that they put into it, the actors. And so they always had to meet earlier, and they had to figure out the scenes and how they would feel. And then we would come in, we would work alone a bit, Alexei and I, with the director to find the kind of the right compositions or the right feel. And then there were the intensive week where we would be with the actors. And so we had to just try things out and run them, find the right time, like how long things should be. Also, when the projections were there, we had to underscore them. And so everything, we had to find the right timing, you know, so like, and the right emotion for it, like
catching the vibe a bit.
Yeah, and the actors, like, for instance, we had to be super consistent also because the actors had to know their cues. Yeah. And so, like, they would know exactly, okay, after 2 phrases, that's when I walk in. And I start to speak at where Ashia stops singing, you know, like, so, and we had to feel them out and kind of provide them the space. So it was really like, it was really intimate, very, very intimate work.
How long were you on tour with this?
Well, we had, let's see, tour. We had a performance in Omsk. That was a premiere. So that's in Siberia. That's like southern Siberia. It's not the taiga, because to be honest, I would have loved to have seen the taiga. I kind of dream about it.
Really?
Yeah, it's just, it's fast. It's in general, I don't want to go too deep into it now, but like in general, Siberia fascinates me a bit. It just seems like, another, some part of the world like we don't really have much contact with.
I think I know what you mean. It's more like something you say, like a word play, than it is an actual place.
Yeah, Siberia. It immediately means something.
Yeah, it means like vastness, loneliness, of course, cold, and
the gulags.
Yeah.
Also, and like a bit of a fairy tale because it's unknown. So when the director approached me, she's like, "We're gonna do this piece. Would you like to be a part of it? We're gonna go to Omsk." And I was like, "Isn't that in Siberia?" And she just shook her head. I'm like, "I'm on. I'm going." Like, I didn't even check the map to see exactly where it was, but Omsk was actually it's on the Trans-Siberian Railroad, and during World War II, they were preparing it to be the capital in Russia in case Moscow fell to Hitler.
Really?
So,
Okay.
So it was quite interesting place with also this kind of imperial architecture. And there is, where we were staying, you couldn't see it, but there was a really large industrial park because they were, because the Russians were pretty smart in producing weapons really far away from the front lines, so that there would be less chance of being taken over. So quite a lot of the production was in Omsk. And if you think about also the Gulag slave labor, the prison labor, it was, like also probably, don't quote me on it, but I could imagine like whatever they produced, the coal they mined out or the metals they mined or the trees they cut down could easily be like exported from Novosibirsk and Omsk, etc. And into production. So yeah, that I need to check out a bit more if I wanted to really.
Was this Siberian experience? This rolls easy off the tongue. Siberian experience.
A Siberian experience, yeah.
Was this the experience you were looking for, or was it just like a little piece of this great piece of land that you wanted to see?
Oh, it was a little piece because it's further south, so it's not near the taiga or anything. Yeah. It's not. But in a sense, what I got from it was the history of the German people that were imprisoned and sent into camps during the wars. And so I learned quite a bit about European and Russian history that I didn't know before, because growing up, I'm Polish. And so growing up, I knew my side of the history, the Polish side, and the occupation. And I didn't really know much of what the Russians did with the Germans, I mean, so for us, they were the occupiers but the ethnic German, I guess you could say ethnic German or whatnot, they had a different reality in Russia.
Okay.
So, and so the project was actually working with German Russians. So they were people who had a German background and a Russian background. Yeah. So one of the actors was a director, Alexei, and he had German roots, but German roots that ended up in Siberia and Omsk.
Okay, gotcha.
So he was already like a German-Russian family. And then another actress, she was born and raised in Moscow, but then lived in Germany for most of her adult life after the fall of the wall. And we also had the pianist, Alexei, he was also Russian-German. So it was like this collaboration with es ist eine russische deutsche Verein. So it's an organization that works with German culture in Russia, basically. Gotcha. And it has its main offices in Moscow, but also works with Russian Germans in Germany, like the German Russians that came to Germany that are then, it's quite, because there were quite a lot that came back to Germany.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I also had a friend who I met in the States, and he was German-Russian, and he said when they arrived, when he was growing up, he was growing up in Germany, but everyone called him a Russian.
Yeah.
So, because his parents were from Russia.
Yeah, of course.
And so there's all this kind of mixing and such. So it was quite like, sorry, it's a bit long, this explanation, but it was quite it was quite fascinating. It's quite fascinating to kind of learn about this side of history, and also how people are often, unfortunately, treated one way or another just because their parents came from someplace, and also the prejudice and the racism involved, just like with the Japanese in the United States during World War II, and or even nowadays with the coronavirus and how Asians, all of a sudden the Asian restaurants were empty. And you're thinking it's not like it's born out of the restaurant, you idiots. Like, fuck,
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much like if one guy or girl fucks up and does something stupid, immediately the entire country has this stigma. Like if there's one dude doing something stupid, all of the other dudes that were born, or even if their parents were born on the same patch of dirt somewhere on this planet, it's magically they are all in one group. And this is so stupid.
Yeah. I mean, in the United States, I grew up with dumb Polak jokes, like I couldn't escape it, It was like, and it was okay because it was like this kind of idiocy, because we're still white, and it's kind of like safe to have some sort of prejudice jokes with somebody, It was really annoying, and that was annoying.
You know what's really complicated? I mean, you just went into the details of the back and forth between Germany and Russian, and some people stayed there, some came back, yada yada yada. When I look at the history, or the story rather, of my grandparents, this is something that made it pretty much impossible for me to believe in something like borders. So the story goes. I try to make it short. Story goes like this. My grandmother and grandfather came from a town. They were born there. They met there, etc. All the stuff. The love came. Blah blah blah. Then there was the war, and this town, by the way, was in Germany. The war came. Second World War. Big mistake. Big fuck up. And they had to move to pretty much all throughout the country. They ended up in Munich somewhere. At least my grandmother did. My grandfather lost his leg and were in prison. It was somewhere in Italy. I don't know. Because he was actually one of the guys who fought in the war. And later, then my grandmother wanted to go back to their hometown. And this, which was after the war, just shortly after the war, and then it was Polish. Mm-hmm. So the town was it was literally on the same place, but then it was Polish. So she couldn't stay there because now it was Polish, and she was German, but because she didn't stay there, she was an outsider. And I really can't imagine what it is because, back then the world wasn't that open for everyone. It was pretty much when you live in a town, or if you are born in a town, you stay there, you marry there, and you probably go to the grave there. And then everything was different without your doing. And so when I get asked, where do you come from? I always go, well, it's complicated. It really is, because the town then, even within a couple of years, the town has two different names. One German and then later a Polish name. So what does these lines that we call borders are like lines that we draw into the dirt and say, this is mine, this is yours.
Yeah.
I still don't get it, but maybe I'm too stupid for it.
I don't either, because there were always there were these ethnic minorities, in a sense we could say ethnic minorities. Also, in like near Berlin is the Spreewald, and so there is the Slavic German ethnic minority. And what in the past, what was so beautiful is that people could evolve their own languages based on where they were and for the needs and for the necessity of the regions. Yeah. And they adapted to them. So they knew how to work with the land. They knew how to work with water. They understood. They had a place that, they really took care of. And and now, with the rise of nationalism and everything having to be a certain way, with modernization, you could like turn any dirt into another kind of dirt. Even in the wheat fields in Kazakhstan, it's because they wanted what the U.S. had, these rolling, these wheat fields that went on and on. So they threw the Germans in there to kind of say, okay, you're going to farm now. If you want a passport, you got to farm some wheat fields. Or like,
is this true? Does this happen?
Yeah, that was part of the story. In the 50s, I think. I don't remember which decade, but it was after the war. Okay. They needed workers. They needed to grow the Soviet Union. These people who had been working in the gulags during the war and until Stalin's death, basically, they started to rehabilitate the Germans that had been sent out there and the people who had been sent out there, where they could have a different future. But they had to kind of sign on to, also more work. If they survived the gulags, they could be then shipped off to Kazakhstan or wherever, or more further south in Siberia. To these wheat fields, gotcha.
Farm
farm and such.
Okay. When it comes to a word like home, like where is home? This is something that I really would like to ask you. You have been born in Poland.
Yeah.
You then went to, if I remember correctly, Portland, USA.
Well, that was eventually that.
Okay.
That was at the end of the
Okay.
U.S. story, or so far the end of the U.S. story.
But this was the place where you lived the longest in the U.S.
We lived the longest in the Seattle area. So
In the what, please?
The Seattle area,
Seattle, yeah.
Washington State. It's
Okay.
a hard word to say, because when you look at it, it should say like Seattle, but you say Seattle. I come from Seattle. Seattle. So I was born in Poland. Then we were political refugees in Hamburg, Germany, for about 3 years.
Okay.
And my second sister Anya was born there. And then our port of our immigration, our sponsors were actually in the Bay Area of California, so near Oakland, California.
Okay.
And then we were there, I don't know, like 6-7 years. And then we moved to the Seattle area, to Washington State.
Out of sunny California.
Yeah, sunny, hot, dry, earthquake, California. That's how I understood it.
Okay.
Yeah. From what I understood is that it was just too hot. It was just too much. And my father, he took a trip by himself to visit some family friends and just fell in love with the region. He felt like it was a lot closer to the climate of Poland and Central Europe, which it is.
Is this what they call the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, the Pacific Northwest.
Okay. Never been there, obviously, but I heard it's beautiful.
Ah, it's gorgeous.
Is it?
I mean, oh yeah, it's just I think I miss it a bit every day. Yeah, it's especially it's really weird, but for instance, when in Berlin we also have every once in a while we still get this kind of sprinkling rain. It's like a fog that's always hanging around, and that really gets me, because at this point I always just want to like grab the car and go for a drive in the hills and the woods, and oh man, but it's
in the rain.
Not in the rain, but in this like sprinkly mist.
Yeah,
It's very special.
Yeah, this thing between mist and rain.
Yeah.
Like when the weather can't decide.
Yeah, and so we have this also in Berlin in the winter. It doesn't hang around for as long, but it reminds me of, and this winter especially, it was like this when I would look out the window. It just wasn't, there were no mountains. There were no.
Yeah, of course.
It's very flat in Berlin.
Pacific Northwest Seattle area, there are mountains, right?
There's a lot of mountains. There's just.
And there's obviously a beautiful countryside.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So what I initially want to ask you is, which of those, if I would take those like 3 or 4 places, like Poland, Hamburg, okay, let's make it 5. California, Pacific Northwest, and then Berlin. What would you consider home?
I'd say Berlin.
Yeah,
it's
really?
where I am now, but I feel now that like for me, the kind of escape route, I think, is the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
And it's really weird because while I was living there, I was very much into exploring my Polish roots.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was writing pieces in Polish, or kind of like my childlike Polish, like how I can write in Polish. And so I was connecting with my grandparents. And I was traveling a lot between the Pacific Northwest and Central Europe for about 4 or 5 years. And so, but it's where there's a familiarity. And I mean, Berlin is my home, but let's face it, die deutsche Sprache ist mega schwierig. Und weißt du, es kann sich nicht so in ein Arbeitsfeld so mich entwickeln wie normalerweise. So, ich kann eigentlich sagen, okay, ich will ein Masters machen. in den USA und mache ich ein Masters. Ist nicht so schwierig. Aber hier in Deutschland, ich muss erstmal diese Herausforderung mit der Sprache.
Yeah, German language is. We don't know how lucky we are that we were raised with this, because this is pretty much for all others. It's something like the hardest language out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look, if we as Germans look at a language like English or Spanish, it's it's like, well, this is even a language. They don't have grammar at all, and if they have, they don't use it, and they get along with it.
They do. But yeah, I mean, yeah, compared.
I mean, look. If you say he doesn't know, which is grammatically correct as far as I'm concerned, he doesn't know anything. But most Americans would say he don't know anything.
Oh God.
Wouldn't they?
No, but I mean, that's kind of the colloquial, he don't know anything. But I don't think I don't know, not in the Pacific Northwest. Like, no, it's true. Like the Pacific Northwest tries, at least. It's a bit like Hanover. Like in the Pacific Northwest, we don't really have, like, we have a clear accent, like a very straight accent. My accent no longer is a Pacific Northwest accent because I'm speaking in 3 languages and I'm hearing all these accents, and I'm not surrounded by American accents. But
yeah, right. Now that you mention Hanover is said to have the clearest, most straight accent.
Yeah. So in that way, if you compare a Pacific Northwest accent to the Bronx or the South, it's quite clear and straight there.
Okay.
Not sure why, but it's yeah. Yeah. But yeah, with the it's true, and it's really interesting because actually, the Central European languages, if you look at Czech and German and Polish, I mean, the difference is Germanic, Anglo-Germanic, and then Slavic, but actually, they all have these grammatical cartwheels that you have to turn. I mean, Polish is extremely difficult. Like, I don't think I've ever spoken a Polish sentence correctly in my life.
Really?
Like, I try really hard, but like basically I need to go study it as well as in German because you can change the number 2 like 15 times depending on how it sits in the sentence and what it's
the number 2.
The number 2.
Like zwei.
Zwei, yeah. So it's dva. I need to see a list, but there's like a hashtag. There's My Life is Polish. Check it out on Instagram. It's hilarious. But they post like what it's like to be Polish, and there's a list of like how many times the number 2 changes depending.
Really?
Yeah, it's and we also have these cases as well. Not in the same way as German, but it also that they exist. And there's, German has 6, and I think Polish has 7. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, it's crazy. But actually, since learning German, when I read Polish, I understand Polish better. Maybe because my brain has been worked grammatically to kind of like accept anything else but English. So
lately, a friend of mine sent me one of these picture jokes, and it makes use of German grammar, and it's not super funny, but it's a little laugh. And I wanted to tell it a friend of mine who lives in Portugal, and we always speak English, and I wanted to tell him, but I realized, okay, I can't, because the crux of the matter was the grammar, the accusative.
Yeah.
And the English language does not have this in this specific sentence. It's weird. I don't know where something like this is coming from. I mean, Germany, and if you took like Germany pretty much in the center, then there's Poland on the one side, and on the other side, well, there's the sea, and then there's England. Why or Britain or whatever. Why are these three languages descending from countries so close together so different? It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. And they share some words, they share some explanations. And yeah, I think for one thing with the Central European languages, one thing I thought about was that because there were so many dialects and still are dialects, and there were so many accents, and there were so many times borders changed and kingdoms taken over, is that it was a way, how do I explain it? It's a way for neighbors to know exactly if somebody, sorry, I'm actually something happened here in Reaper and I want to make sure I have this cell saved.
Yeah. Okay, good.
But anyways, it was a way for neighbors to know exactly if you were from a certain place or not. So if you didn't know the exact grammar, you knew for sure that person was a spy or they weren't really from your clan or from your people, from your tribe or from your kingdom.
Yeah.
And so it was a natural way of like protecting the language. So like Poland disappeared for 100 years from the map, but the language survived.
Poland disappeared.
Yeah, it wasn't existed.
Really?
Yeah. It didn't exist.
When was this?
It was during the Romantic era. So until the end of World War I, there was no Poland for 100 years because the Austro-Hungarian, the Prussians, and the Russians divided it in three parts.
Okay.
And then it just didn't exist as a nation. It didn't exist as an empire. It didn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
But the language still survived because the people really had to work on it. Like they had to keep their culture, and the Czechs as well, and the Slovaks, and of course, because they also were not there. I don't think.
And this pretty much brings us back to the lines in the dirt, because if culture is a big word. I mean the culture of my people, but you can always you can also say the behavior. We have some special traits, some behaviorisms, whatever, and you have others, and then we manifest those by borders and call it a country.
Yeah.
And isn't that fascinating that a whole country can just be not there for 100 years? Like, it's not there. Oh yeah, there it is again. While the people are still living on the exactly same land.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Yes and no, because, for instance, the Poland that existed between the two world wars, between World War I and World War II, its borders were further east. And then after World War II, they just like moved it over again, and then anyways it was under Soviet occupation, so like
this was when the village of my granny was like Polish.
All of a sudden, it's crazy. All of a sudden it's like not yours anymore. And it was crazy, like in the Mazure region, because it was a German region. I think one of the rules was if you could not speak Polish, you had to leave. If you could not speak and understand Polish, you had to just go. Crazy, oder? Yeah, like you don't even have the opportunity to learn it. Like it showed that you weren't, and so there we have it. It's that language thing again, you know, like, oh, you're just not able to speak it perfectly. Well, choose, goodbye.
Okay. so not even you have to make the effort to learn it, but if you don't speak it right away, we don't want you here.
Exactly.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, could you imagine that? Like like, oh, I can't stay here either, or something like. And
this is probably not that long ago, is it?
This was like, it was right after World War II. This is like, there are still
right
people
alive.
There's still people alive that remember these times, you know?
Yeah.
Like Armin's, my husband's parents, they were children during World War II. So yeah, they remember all of this. They remember these times.
Jesus.
Yeah.
This is like one people away.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's I think that's what's kind of holding us together, is because we have our grandparents' stories, but when they go, how do we tell it to our children? And then how do they, like never again, etc. How can we really hold on to this? And in the new generations that are, these young people, like how with all these gadgets and all these Instagram stories and TikTok and everything.
You don't TikTok?
I haven't tried yet, to be honest.
Me neither.
I'm a bit like afraid if I dive in, it's gonna be over, and then you'll like never see me again. I'll just be like TikToking all the time. Sorry, you want to have me? No, sorry, I got a TikTok. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Me neither. I really don't see the point. But thinking about the now common socials, like when I first heard the term Facebook, I thought that it was that the intention of Facebook was like a desktop, a wall with pictures of your face, and that's your Facebook. And it was not. But strangely enough, the same thing I thought about when going into Instagram. Yeah, like, why should I post pictures for everyone to see and that's it? Why? Who would ever look at the pictures? And what I want to say is, at the beginning, everything seems really stupid.
Yeah.
And I don't know if TikTok is stupid, or if it is, and maybe it's the intention, but because all the hilarious TikToks seem to go very well.
Some of this really good stuff out there. It's pretty amazing, some of the stuff that people think of and they edit and splice together really
It somehow
quickly.
makes people creative, doesn't it?
Super creative. I've seen, like, because one of my sisters, she sends us some TikToks every once in a while, and I'm just, it's kind of great because she filters out the best stuff and she sends it. And I'm always just like rolling whatever she finds. Yeah. It's pretty good stuff. Chris, I just want to stop. I just want to pause record. Can we pause together and then,
Okay.
On 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on 1, because I need to check something here.
Okay. Moving on from TikTok. It is enjoyable, but do you remember all this talk about China spying, yada, 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 through TikTok? Because TikTok is apparently a Chinese company.
Stimmt, true.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, if you get one of these, they're spying on you anyway.
Yeah.
Not China specifically, but I heard an interview with Edward Snowden, and he pretty much said that every phone is like constantly looking for the next tower to get a signal, and they do this even when they're off, because they're not even when they're off, they're not really off. And maybe you remember this? There once was a time when you had a cell phone and you can remove the battery.
Oh yeah, those were incredible times.
Yeah. And nowadays you can't.
You can't do that. No.
Yeah. And this is pretty much for a reason.
Yeah. Haha. Yeah. It's interesting when I hear people talking about how, like with the coronavirus, we think they're not collecting data, and I'm like, do you use Google? Do you use Facebook? Do you use Instagram? And you're worried about the coronavirus app collecting your data? I'm a bit like, why are we talking about this? I mean, for sure, I don't want to get too deep into it. I could already hear exclamation points like out there. But for sure, it's a bit, it's not, I mean, I feel in a way, hey, this is an application. It's not made by a Chinese government organization. They've worked really hard to have the data that it's anonymous and that it stays on our phones. Sometimes I do feel like the trickiest thing about it is that my question sometimes is about accountability, because there's always a bunch of jackasses out there. And what about these jackasses who just like, they're not positive, but they just want to put their positive, you know? And then all of a sudden it creates a chain reaction of people getting tested, going into quarantine. And that one jackass is like, he's not held accountable because there's no way to really know if he's positive or not, because it's him that knows, him or her, I should say. And so when you think about it, you know, you don't know who has it or not, because there's the anonymity behind it. And so you can't like text one of those. I don't know, because I don't know how deeply it goes, but that's one thing that I think about that. I hope I'm just not like throwing this idea out there, but you know, you just say that you're positive, and then it just creates hell for a whole lot of people that have been in contact with you without you having to go through it yourself.
Yeah, it's pretty much like being socially responsible.
Yeah, extremely.
Because well, there's a society out there. There are people, and if you have it and you can infect others that can infect others, maybe you just want to stay home because it's not a cool move.
Yeah.
And furthermore, nowadays, as we're all very aware of it, you probably get applauded. So what the heck? And even if not, if just the reaction is, hey, cool, then hey, just do the right thing.
Yeah.
It's very easy. And well, the thing about maybe could the Corona app collect data? Yes, most probably. And every cell phone all the time screams to the next tower trying to get a signal like, here I am, all the time. And if you, because it's a mobile phone, if you move somewhere, it will sometime the tower that got you first will lose your signal, and the other tower will get it. And it's measurable how strong the signal is. And that's pretty much it. Meaning, wherever you go with the phone companies can always tell where you are. Not 100% exactly, but pretty much.
In the range of a tower.
So.
Yeah.
In the range of a tower. And then how strong the signal is. Yeah. So this is possible anyway. Yeah. And then people say, I still don't want it. Well, have you switched on GPS? How do you think Google Maps works?
Yeah.
Google Maps, when you go through traffic and there's a traffic jam and you see it on your phone, okay, there's a traffic jam ahead, probably 11 minutes. This is not because some Google employee running around watching the streets.
Yeah.
No, because there are plenty of phones using Google Maps, and they see their GPS signal is slowing down. So there's a traffic jam. That's it. Collecting data. I'm pretty sure that in a couple of years, privacy will be outdated. There will be no more privacy. Yeah,
it's the imperial dream to be able to look in anyone's house, and I mean it's working. It's working in China. They see a lot of stuff, but like here, you know, on our side, we want to have it all, and
and for free,
the best, and for free, and for exactly, but fair trade and for free.
Fair trade and for right. The people who make it shall be treated fairly and get paid well, but please give it for free to me.
Yeah.
Okay. That's an ambitious project.
Exactly.
We just create money.
We just keep printing it.
By the way, why should we pay these people anyway when everything's for free?
Exactly.
So just give it. go back to trading shells.
Shells. Not even shells. I mean, it's like beyond capitalism. Everything's just kind of free.
Yeah.
Somehow.
But this is this would only work in a very small, on a very small scale, like in a village. When you get the butcher, the gardener, the trash.
Yeah.
What's the name for the guy who picks up the trash?
The trash collector. The garbage man.
Is that the trash collector is maybe the weird old man that has these strange figurines in his house.
Yeah.
Pretty much like the trash collector could.
It's obviously that guy that's been picking up our trash. Obviously, because it's that guy.
It's always that guy.
It's that guy who's got all those bottle caps and he makes a mosaic out of them.
Yeah. Or like, have you seen these? Talking about weird hobbies, have you seen the pictures from when they investigated Jeffrey Epstein's home?
No.
Have you seen the Epstein documentary? Jesus Christ, this is like so out of a movie. They go through his house, and what they find is disturbing, to say the least. It's pretty Kubrick, The Shining-ish.
Oh God. Okay.
With the lighting and pictures of very, very young people everywhere, like in the bathroom.
Oh, weird. We stop now.
Yeah, it's actually really, really creepy.
Okay.
But it's a good documentary, and yeah. Okay, talking about happier things. Have you? Do you do some? Because streaming. Everybody does streaming, etc. Do you involve yourself in any projects that can be seen nowadays on the screens?
Not at the moment. No, I mean, the only thing now is this 1.5 minute video that we do with Orchestraltools. Yeah. And you can find it on the YouTube of Orchestraltools channel. It's called Creative Sound Packs.
I will link that.
Yeah. So there's that, and I had been planning to do a live streaming, but maybe I would do it after the summer break. Yeah.
Is there a summer break?
There's a summer break for all the children that have to be
okay.
Yeah, they don't have school and kita during this time. So I was thinking more maybe something like September. I mean, from the very beginning, I wasn't so hot on doing live streaming. And maybe I'll just do something spontaneously, like within a few days ahead of time. I will know, because I thought actually to do it just during this last period, but then we had the accident, and then I wanted actually nothing to do with anything. Like if I can't play my cello, I just don't. Like if I can't do the thing that I'm used to doing, I just don't.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
I mean, just live streaming, sitting on a chair.
Yeah, I mean, even to be honest, it was because I had actually been doing cello lessons online, and so that was enough for me. Like a couple hours a week to have to be really focused and to give energy. Where I was like, okay, this is really it's enough.
How does this work? Cello lessons online.
It worked. It was good because we had a consistent weekly meeting time, and I found that it was really good for the students and also for me. But what was the difficulty was, and still is, because I still have to keep a distance to my students, so I can't help them with their technique. It's really difficult because if you know yourself from getting lessons of any kind, even sports, even the teacher often comes and corrects something, even dance, sports, yoga, etc. There's always at some point some physical contact, like to get the alignment correct, to relax the shoulders, to So I had to come up with all sorts of on-screen games, basically, to kind of get them to do like little exercises or to show me how they're holding their bow hold. But of course, once I finally saw them face to face, it was just like, oh my God, I'm really glad I'm finally meeting with them, because I could really see, because I have the 3D vision then and not just this two-dimensional space.
It's not that limited.
Yeah. So for the adult, it was okay. For the kids, it would have been, but still, like, it's still complicated because I still have to be like, okay, turn your wrist towards me, and all of it's in German. It's just alles auf Deutsch. So I'm like trying to get them to do things in German, which is like my third language, online. So you can imagine, like,
So a lot of like we say in German, mit Händen und Füßen.
Mit Händen und Füßen, ja.
Yeah. Dear, I really have to jump to the bathroom real quick. I'm drinking this infused water, staying healthy as fuck. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, I'll go too then. Ready? Wait, we pause.
Do we pause?
On 4.
Okay, we pause on 4. Okay, you do the counting.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Taking in liquids the whole morning.
Okay, nice.
Of various forms. What I just thought about. Are you aware of the artist Kid Be Kid from Berlin?
I saw when you were doing a podcast, I guess, with her, sharing her work, and then I checked her out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I checked her out, and it's pretty impressive,
isn't it?
Pretty awesome.
Because when I first got in touch with her, like, this was back in the days when people were working and concerts were happening. I really thought that there could be some connection between her work and your work, because both of you take like a classic instrument, an old form of instrument, and add something new to it, especially with technology, and I mean you do these loops sometimes with a little beatboxing and just noises over the piano. She does this beatboxing on the and the piano. Did I say piano twice?
Yeah, I think you meant to say she does this. And
she does this, and
I don't do anything with piano.
Yeah, of course. I just realized it. You the cello, she the piano. But the approach seems so similar, and furthermore, both of you are really nice and likable people. So I think I make it a mission of mine to bring you two together to do something amazing.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I think so. And you're both in Berlin, like, well, every second musician in the country is.
It seems like it. It's a bit, sometimes, I don't think overwhelming is the right word, but sometimes I feel like as though everybody is a musician or everybody is an artist, and then I start to wonder if people do anything else at all. Because it seems like there is just such a large population, exactly, which is really wonderful because there's also support.
Yeah. I guess in certain areas of Berlin, it's unnatural if not every second dude is a artist, musician of some sort.
Yeah.
There's really a lot of going on still there.
Yeah, and there's many people who kind of do it for fun, or they just do it kind of like as a hobby, but not as a professional hobby, in a sense where like they of course, want to be successful, but they have other jobs and such. And then you have people who are that's really their main thing that they're really, really working on. And because for a long time, rents were cheap in Berlin.
Yeah.
And now it's getting more and more complicated, of course.
Normalized.
Yeah, normalized. But there's many people who are professionals of all different kinds of backgrounds, because it's not just the classical musicians or the kind of like the people, as a kid grew up playing an instrument. There's a lot of people here who just got into electronic music at some point.
Of course.
Who are building their entire worlds or careers or whatever completely outside of any sort of academic or...
Isn't the headquarter of Native Instruments also in Berlin?
Yeah. It's actually not far from my house.
Really?
Yeah, it's on Schlesische Straße. Shit.
Okay.
No, Schlesische Straße, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Schlesische Straße. A horrible word. Schlesische Straße.
It's where your ancestors come, like the Schlesische region, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
I really want to go back to Berlin someday. Not like back and live there, but, well, I don't know, stay there for a couple of days and hang out with, most probably you and some other guys. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, this whole Corona thing is quite annoying because you like want to invite people over. Like you're always welcome to come stay with us.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It gives this but.
It always does, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like even just visiting my family for the first time, it's so strange because my physical reaction is not to hug at all. Like I've just taught myself not to hug people and not to shake people's hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I first saw my family, my parents, I didn't want to hug them, but of course I'm going to be spending time with them.
Yeah.
And I was very open in communicating with them, like, okay, and now, my kid goes to the kindergarten. How do you feel about it? Or I'm always, if there's any sort of uncertainty, I let anybody know. And now I have a sister who will be coming from London, and it's just, just wear a mask. And it seems like if you are not coming from a hot spot and not going through a hot spot, then the risk is much lower because we understand the way it works. And it seems like the masks help a lot. If everybody agrees to wear one, of course.
I think the masks do help, but
it's not 100%.
No, but
still, but
it has a nice side effect if you want to, because wearing a mask makes the presence of the pandemic present, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like many things have normalized already. There are restaurants reopening, and all in all, it seems like a lot of people have kind of made their peace with the situation, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, we're lucky enough to be at peace with it here also.
Yeah, of course. Just speaking from the very refined place of where we're at. But here it seems really like people are down with it. They're cool. It became a thing, not so really an illness anymore or a sickness anymore. It's this thing. It's a way thing out there.
It's a way of life, and we're being in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, most people I speak to, it's like, well, it's here now.
Yeah.
At some point, we will either be infected, or at some point, if we're not infected, we will eventually get immunized, or there will be. So it's something we just have to kind of. There's always risk factors, of course, with anything, but you also can't stop life. It's really interesting
well put.
Yeah, you can't stop us being human also. There are, of course, boundaries to what that means, but when I met with elderly people a couple of weeks ago, it was incredible how the feeling is that they just really wanted contact. I'm not talking about physical contact. I'm talking about contact.
Yeah, talking.
When I met with relatives and friends of those relatives, they feel it. They feel the need. Okay, now is the time. If I die this year, at least I saw these people. I mean, and we're not talking about I'm talking about people over 80. So relatives over 80, etc. And you want to protect them.
Sure.
And this might sound a bit like hopefully not too rude or anything, but I had conversations with people who are like, well, if my grandparents or my parents caught it from me, I would feel guilty the rest of my life. If they went to go visit them. And then I started to meet with relatives, or even just before I met with them, speak to them, and the openness to see their grandchildren and their need to see their own children was like overriding any risk to get the disease. I mean, it was like, it seemed like it, because they were just so happy to hear that we would consider going to visit. And then I started to think, wow, so my own possible guilt that I would wear for the rest of my life is more important than a grandparent seeing its grandchild. Like, to weigh in this factor was something that I started to also see if they know, and then there comes the guilt is I never went there and they caught it from someone else, and I did not get to see them for the last time because of my own wanting to protect them. Well, at least I protected them, but you cannot protect anybody 100% unless you go there and you live next to them and you lock them in and you bring things to them every day, but you never have contact with them. You say, stay in your house. Don't talk to anybody else. Don't go leave this house. Like, this is maybe the only way that you can. So then you have these various guilts, I guess, for the rest of your life to deal with.
What I really don't understand is why aren't we? And this is not like. How can I say? This is just a real question that I ask myself. There obviously are those tests that look like a little stapler that you put onto the forehead of someone. They're testing your temperature. I don't know if you have seen these images, but it looks very sci-fi-esque, because there's dudes with these little laser things putting on the forehead, and obviously they can say if someone's infected or not from the little that I know. Okay?
Whoa, crazy. I don't know.
I've actually seen an ad for a hotel promoting this, because we are the spa that gives you serenity, peace, and security, because we test everyone all the time. Okay, I'm just guessing that there is something like this that works. What I don't understand is why aren't there in every third street people who test others continuously if they just have to shoot into the forehead?
Right? I don't know. From what I understand, you kind of have to check if you have some virus organism in you or not through your fluids or what's coming out of your mouth or etc. So it doesn't really make sense. I mean, I guess the only way, if it's one of these DNA spotting testers, or what are these funny little guns you can go in? It's like a laser that tests what ingredients something has, and then it tells you, or how chemically pesticides saturate. Yeah, there's these, you can zap a vegetable and it'll tell you how many pesticides it has on it. So I guess have something if you program something, a gun, I know this just sounds like crap that's coming out of my mouth right now. I guess if you somehow program some gun to be able to read the DNA of a microorganism as small as the coronavirus.
And then you shoot people in the face.
with with this laser, and it can read, oh, this person has corona in it because the gun detected the DNA strain.
Yeah.
I don't know, of the coronavirus, but it has to be very specific because there are many coronaviruses.
Of course. Then they have to check the COVID-19, but it sounds crazy, but it sounds not impossible crazy, if you know
Not
what
impossible.
I mean.
Yeah, they'll figure it out sooner or later.
Maybe they did. I mean, if I can shoot at vegetables to look, you know, I always keep saying, if I can shoot at vegetables, I should shoot at people as well.
Yeah.
Isn't that some universal wisdom or such?
I don't know. It's pretty scary though, because think about it. If you can test a genome, then you could also. It's a bit what the Chinese are doing with like the Western. The name of the ethnic minority. Can't remember it right now, but they're doing genetic testing on Western Asians to see if they, not if they have, but in essence, like to organize and dichotomize and kind of file away all the people who have the ethnic minority gene of the I hate it when I can't remember something of the who. But the people who are now being imprisoned for being Islamic in Western China, and they're doing collecting genetic information on all of them.
Is this
and so when you
is this some ethnic cleansing type shit?
Yeah, it is. In essence, it is.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's a long history, and what happened to kind of bring this. But they just want information on everything on everything as much as possible. But it's just, if it's ethnic cleansing is what really, if you think about it in a really, really deeply fascist way, but it's also seen at their point of view as like control over a population that could result in terrorist strikes. So
what?
Yeah. So because they, because
we can boil everything down to terrorist strikes.
Yeah, basically, because there were terrorist strikes. I can't say it. It sounds strange saying it that way. But they had there were Islamic terrorists in the region. So then they just started to. I can't come up with any words right, but basically they just started to
look for Islamic people.
Well, sorry, you can cut this you can edit this all out because I can't really. But they started to build. They had camps set up where they started to naturalize the citizens. So then they would start to control the citizens and to try to root out the terrorists from the source.
Okay.
The terrorism, the Islamic terrorism. So it went from just having cameras in the house to having certain rules and regulations, like you can only pray during. You cannot pray if you have guests over, or they could actually. There were also certain things like all of a sudden, if you were not smoking or not drinking, that could also lead to you possibly being a terrorist. I mean, they don't drink anyways, but all these crazy, I don't know, this is starting to sound really nuts, but
I really don't want to cut this out because this is I mean, it's pretty much like the laser shooting in the face.
Laser shooting in the face, exactly.
Crazy.
So it could lead to this, if you start being able to say, okay, we have a laser that could read the genetic, the genomes of a virus. What's stopping them from being able to read the genetic genome of a human being?
It would not. It would definitely not.
Yeah, if you could program this. And so if you think about it, it makes it really easy for the Chinese government with this. I gotta look this up because I feel really embarrassed. already.
You did not. There's a lot of China bashing going on within this episode of the podcast, but
no, not so much. I've been there.
You've been to China?
I've been to China, yeah.
Well, if this podcast blows up, you probably will never be there again.
Yeah, maybe not. But it's just, everybody knows, and everybody knows it, but it's quite in the Western news quite often now in this case. And
there's
and I've known music groups, of which names I will not mention right now, who have actually decided not to perform in China because they didn't feel like it was right to take government money if they felt like there was something wrong in the country.
There's something that I have to...
Uyghur. Sorry. The Uyghur.
Shoot.
The Uyghurs are recognized as native to the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in northwest China. Oh, thank you. I really had to say that.
You have to send that link to me, please.
The link? I just Googled Uyghur, but...
Okay. Yeah, but please do it anyway. There's something on the news lately with China and Hong Kong as well. Something that I haven't caught up with, but there's also some trouble about I'm really talking out of my ass here, but I guess it's something about the sovereignty of Hong Kong, Beijing. No, I'm talking shit again. Beijing is Peking.
Peking, yeah. Beijing is the capital of China. Peking, yeah. Beijing, you're right. And Hong Kong was the capital of the Cantonese region, I think.
Yeah.
If not the capital, then it was definitely the financial. It was the largest city, one of the largest cities.
Yeah. And I disqualified myself so bad right now.
Boom.
Yeah.
No, but maybe maybe we need to eat something.
Okay. By the way, it's 12 o'clock. Which also means that our date sadly has somehow to end here.
What ends on that discussion? Holy shit!
Yeah,
but deep.
Good thing is we can pick it up on this discussion because maybe there's more stuff coming. We should do this. I don't know. We should do this again. What do you say?
Yeah, it's wonderful. Anyways.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. So, Ashia, please tell me, where can people find you on the interwebs?
On the interwebs. So, I have a website that's kind of a central space under my name, Ashia Bison Rouge. Mm-hmm. But to make it really easy, you can Google Bison Rouge or Bison Rouge and... however you want to, Bison Rouge. And that's a really, really easy way to find my work because that'll take you to the website and take to if you listen to Spotify or if you have iTunes or Bandcamp, it will all be linked there.
And to make it even easier, I will put all the links into the description, into the show notes. So people can find you and because I think they really should check out what you're doing, what you're up to.
Yes.
Ashia, my dear, it was wonderful to talk to you.
Wonderful to talk to you.
Have a good day. Have a great week and hope to talk to you soon again.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay. Bam. Okay, just another segment back because Ashia and I've totally forgot to talk about a very, very important thing because Ashia, you went to Poland lately. That is correct, right?
Yeah.
What have you been doing there? This sounds so much like a news interview. What have you been doing there?
Well, I was visiting my family, but because I'm Polish, I am allowed to vote. And I was able to vote in the 2020 presidential election. And I just felt like I really wanted to do it on location rather than by correspondence.
Yeah.
And now I have to go back in a week. I have to go back and vote for my opponent candidate, Trzaskowski. So
Okay, what is why do you have to vote 2 times?
Okay, so in the presidential elections, it goes that if a candidate does not receive 50% of the vote,
Yeah.
then there has to be a runoff between him and another, or her, but in this case, they were all men, between 2 candidates. Yeah.
Okay, and this runoff will happen next week.
It's not this Sunday, but the following Sunday.
Okay. Got you. And why is this so important to you to go there and vote, especially in this election? Is there maybe something up with one of the candidates that you don't like?
Let's see which direction do we take this. So basically, the incumbent president, so the president that is there, he is loyal to the peace party, so the Prawo und Sprawiedliwość party.
Say that again, please.
Peace party.
Okay.
Let's just say that. So it's the party that the Kaczynski is the leader of.
Okay.
And it's the party that is very nationalistic and is very much connected very deeply with the Catholic Church and very much believes in a very, very narrow view of what it is to be Polish.
So like hardline conservatives.
Very, yes,
Okay.
very much. So you compare it to the AfD, like if the AfD was the incumbent president
Okay.
or prime minister of
Okay, got you.
or party of Germany, that's like what you're dealing with.
And this is the current state of Poland right now.
Current state of Poland.
Okay.
So yeah, they're very far right. And but they're not right in the sense that we all know it as like the CDU or liberals or Republicans, because they also believe very much in government spending.
Okay.
And so just about any time an election is up, they spend more money. They're literally buying votes.
Okay.
Yeah. And they control a large part of the media in Poland. So, for instance, Duda, the incumbent president, receives like 70 to 80% of time compared to the other, the other candidates. And he received a large amount of votes, but there's so much propaganda, and it's also, it's chilling. Like, I mean, this is my personal opinion, but you see Duda and he's surrounded by children that are holding Duda and Polish flags, and it just reminds me of Stalin and the photo ops he would do holding, the children of communism.
Yeah.
And like, I can't. It's like, it's just.
And now it's on between this dude and an opponent.
Cheskovsky. Yeah. Cheskovsky.
And Cheskovsky is more.
He's more in the middle. And
Libertarian.
yeah. So he is definitely more liberal. He really supports equal rights for people. He is the mayor of Warsaw.
Yeah.
And he also served on the European Parliament. He was a Secretary of State for Poland as well in, I think, 2014, 15. And he believes in equality too much, to an extent that he also protects LGBTQ rights. And so what's interesting is I was reading an article in The Guardian how Duda has kind of relinquished his homophobic language during the current race.
Yeah.
And but Cheskovsky has also kind of like not been pushing so much on that side
Gotcha.
either. Like that he's like, oh, so pro rainbows.
Okay.
Glitter
so there,
and pride parades.
So basically there's this one dude who has who is in bed with a large portion of the media, who is hardline conservative or worse, and then there's the other dude, the mayor of Warsaw, who is pretty much in a man of the 21st century, equal rights,
exactly.
LGBTQ, yada yada yada, and these two are running in the second run against each other, right?
Yeah. So, and it's a very decisive vote, because if either one of them win, it will kind of, how to say it, it will send a message. It will send a message to all the other citizens of Poland. It will send a message to the European Union.
Okay.
That and the thing is this is a popular vote.
Yeah.
It is not an electoral vote. It is a popular vote. So it's really every voice counts. It's not to say, oh, my city of Wrocław, so I'm in Breslau.
Yeah.
That's where I vote. Oh, it looks like, I could always check the statistics before and say, oh, it looks like everybody there agrees with me. So if I don't really vote, it's not a big deal, right? Like that's how many people think sometimes. Or they're undecided and they're well, I'll allow my population to decide for me.
Yeah.
That's not the case here. This is like, it's really every head counts.
Okay.
And so hopefully it's an honest vote and that every vote gets counted and processed honestly, as we're all hoping for.
Yeah,
because the EU Commission is definitely watching this and they're overlooking to make sure that it really truly is fair, because peace controls so much now, and they're gaining more and more control. Recently, a Polish radio station, which even during the Soviet times was the alternative voice.
Okay.
And it was recently censored.
Jesus Christ.
It was censored by the Peace Party. So, for instance, during the communist times, there was American music played, there was alternative artists being played, and until this point, until this spring, it was, different voices and opinions could be heard on it. But there was an artist who had a song where he's definitely pointing a finger to Kaczynski, and it reached number 1, and then it disappeared.
Okay.
From the charts.
Okay, yeah.
It was just censorship at its prime example.
That's shady business.
It's super, yeah. So, it's just all this crazy stuff is happening. There are artists there are theater and dance companies. There's what it was a while ago this happened, but there was a theater company that was supposed to perform in New York, and they got their funding pulled because it was basically a criticism on the current government state of affairs in Poland. So they couldn't show their work.
Okay, so there's a lot of the stakes is high. Let's say.
The stakes are really high.
Okay, because this is a topic that interests me. Plus, we're running out of time now.
Yeah.
What do you think after the presidential election in Poland? We will find time to record again, to talk again, and to dive deeper into this type of situation. Mm-hmm. Deal done?
Deal done.
Okay. All right. Then we cut it like here. We call this a wrap. And that's let's push the button.
Okay.
Und wir sind raus. Danke fürs Zuhören. Danke an alle die bis hierhin durchgehalten haben. Die zahlreichen Links findet ihr in den Shownotes auf der Website. Und wenn es euch gefallen hat, würde ich mich tierisch über eine Bewertung freuen. Das hilft enorm. Vielleicht sogar ein Abo auf Apple Podcasts. Wie wär's? Wie auch immer, ihr werdet das Richtige tun. Denn ihr seid wunderbar. Macht's gut. Danke und bis später.